Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's class of data analysis. So just a brief recap on what we did yesterday. Yesterday we looked at data entry. So we started by looking at the variable view in which we said that's where you enter, you make your data entry template. This is where you set the responses to each particular question. We looked at the two types of questions that we have, which is the numeric type of question and the string type of questions. We looked at how to insert values which correspond to the responses of each question and the values, and so on and so forth. We also looked at data view and saw how to enter data using SPSS. We saw that once you assign a particular number to a response, that's when you're dealing with numeric data, all you have to do is use that number to mean that response that was assigned to enable you to enter data faster, and like type in the full response, because that could be time consuming. You also looked at how you could change the view which you want. You can look at it in terms of responses, or you can look at it in terms of the numerical assignments to those responses. Today we're going to look at data analysis. So for the sake of this course, I increased the number of responses that we had. If you remember yesterday, they're only going up to 51, but today we have up to 83, and we're going to try and analyze this data that we have. Remember, we said data analysis simply is to make the data in a more meaningful manner which is easy to understand and to draw a conclusion. So suppose you enter data like we have done here and you have 83 responses. So just by looking at the data like this, are you able to tell how many male were in this how many male we had in this survey, or how many females, just by looking at it like this? Are you able to tell how many were married, how many were single, or how many were divorced? It would be very difficult for you to tell just by seeing. It's almost impossible. The only option you'd have is to analyze the data in a more meaningful manner. And the first way you do this, or one of the ways you can do this, is the hard way, where you actually start counting to see how many are married. You see married, you start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on until you find the number of married. But this is where the software comes in to make life easy for all concerned. So let's quickly try and get a few statistics based on this data from these 83 responses that we got. So we'll start by looking at frequencies if we want to get basic frequencies from this data. So for instance, we want to find out how many males were there and how many females were there. So what you do is you go on top here where it says analyze, you click on analyze, and you click on descriptive statistics. When you click on descriptive statistics, you go on frequencies. Here on frequencies, you have this dialog. This dialog shows you all the questions that you answered in your data entry, from the first question to the last question. So this is where you pick which question you'd like to analyze. So in our instance, we said we want to find out how many male and how many female were in this survey. So you click on sex and you click on this arrow pointing it here, taking the sex component under the variable window which is here. And after that, you can click on statistics and choose which statistic you want to have. We'll come back to this a bit later. So for now, since we just want to analyze how many females and how many males we had, we press OK. Now, the moment you press OK, the second window, which is our output window, like I explained on inside SPSS, that we have two windows, which is the editor window and the output window. And I mentioned that all the analysis will be brought in the output window. So once we press OK there, it brought us automatically to our output window, which is this window. And from this table here, we can tell that we had 44 males in this survey and 39 females, which had a total of 83 respondents. It has further categorized the responses into percentages. So from those 44 males, they constituted 53% of the responses, while the females constituted 47% of the responses. So this is how easy it was to just analyze by a click of a button on getting whatever frequencies we want to get. So now let's go back to our data analysis. We've seen how to analyze male and female, and that was easy enough. So let's try and analyze the age of the responses. We want to find out the ages of the people that responded. The same formula or the same method applies. You go on Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, you go on Frequencies. Now we're done with sex, so you click on sex and you click on the arrow sending it back, and then you click on age and you click on the arrow taking it the variable view. Now age, unlike sex, can give you many statistics. So what you do is you go on Statistics and you choose which statistics you want to be calculated for you by a click of the button. You can get the mean age, you can get the median age, you can get the mode age. You can go a step further if you want the standard deviation, the range, the variance, the maximum, the minimum, standard error of the mean, and so on and so forth. You click whichever is applicable to you. And after you finish clicking, all you say is OK. Then you can go to charts. If you want the responses not only to be displayed in table form, but also in form of a chart, you go on charts and you have the three types of charts you can choose here. You can present them in a bar chart, in a pie chart, or in a histogram. So I'll use a bar chart for this session. Then you can choose how you want to be presented on the bar chart. Do you want frequencies or do you want percentages? I'll stick to frequencies, so you say OK. Then when you finish, you can say OK, and it will go to your output window and it will analyze for you. So depending on the machine that you're using, sometimes it's a bit slow, sometimes it's fast, but at the end of the day it gives you your analysis. So we start with the statistics that we asked for. We asked for the mean, the median, the mode, and the standard deviation. So it has calculated for us that the mean age of these respondents were 33.86 years old. The median age was 33 years old, the mode was 29, and the standard deviation was 6.296. After that, it's given us a table with our age groups, and we can tell that there were 3 people who were 24 years old, 11 were 26 years old, 12 people were 29, 7 were 30, and so on and so forth, up to 52 years of age. And then if we go down further, we can look at the graph that we asked for, presenting this same data which is in the table in a graphical view, which is like this, where we have the frequency here and we have the ages here. So at 24, we have here the number of people who are 24 years old, the number of people who are 26 years old, displayed in a graphical manner as it has been done here. So basically, that is how you analyze frequencies. Another thing you should note is that you are able to analyze many frequencies at the same time. Suppose you ask that you want to get frequencies for all the demographic data that you had. So do you have to keep going on analyze, you say male, analyze, you go back, analyze, you say female, you get the statistics, or can you do everything at the same time? Well, the answer is you can actually do everything at the same time. So suppose I want to get the sex, the age, the marital status, the level of education at the same time. What I have to do is highlight all of them and click and take them in the variable window. As usual, I'll choose which statistics I want for each and every one of the components that will be analyzed. I'll select the charts that I want for the components to be analyzed. And when I finish everything, all I do is press OK, and it will give me an analysis of everything I ticked at the same time. So we have our statistics here for age, for sex rather, for age, for marital status, for highest level, we have all our statistics. And if we go down here, we have a table for each of the variables that we analyzed. We have a table for sex like we had the first time. The table for age has been produced again. We have the table for marital status showing us that 45 respondents were single, while 30 were married and 8 were divorced. We have the highest level of education, and so on and so forth. And we have the graphical representation of each and every data that we actually chose to be presented. So that's how you can easily get frequencies with a click of the button. The other thing I must mention is that SPSS can also help you analyze 2 variables against each other. This is called cross tabulation. If you want to find out, maybe in this case, you have the frequencies of how many were male, how many were female, and you have the frequencies of the marital status. But suppose you wanted to find out to say, of this, let me just go back to the table of the marital status. Yes, we have our table here of marital status, and we have our table of male and female. Suppose we need to combine the two. Suppose we need to find out to say, of these 45 single people, how many were male or how many were female? Of these 30 married people, how many were male and how many were female? And of these 8 divorced people, how many male and how many were female? You can analyze that at the same time to give you, you can analyze 2 or more variables at the same time to give you a certain statistic. So if, for example, we want to find out how many male or female, we want to find out the number of male and female against their marital status. So to do that, we go back to our data, we'll go to analyze. This time, we'll go to descriptive statistics as we did earlier on, but instead of getting the frequencies, we'll go to cross tabulations or cross tabs. Cross tabs is just a shortcut for cross tabulation. This is where you're going to cross-examine 2 variables, which is the male and the marital status in our example. When you click cross tabs, you have your row and your column. You choose which variable you want to be on the row, which variable you want to be on the column. So I'll put sex to be on our row, and I'll put marital status to be on our columns. So what we're analyzing is the sex against the marital status. Just as before, you can choose which statistics you want to give you. We have a variety of statistics here. You can choose to perform a chi-square test, which is a test of relations. You can choose correlation. You can choose Cramer's law. You can choose the lambda, whichever statistic that you want it to give you. All you have to do is tick which statistic you want it to give you, and it's going to give you. After that, you can choose here to say this information, should it just be displayed in a table, or do you want it to be displayed graphically? If you want it to be displayed graphically, just click here on display cluster bar and it will do according to that. And then when you finish, just press OK. And as you can see here, our table has been presented. So on our rows here, we have the marital status, which is male and female. And on our columns, we have their sex here, which is male and female. And on our marital status, we have their marital status, which is single, married, and divorced. So we can tell that from our survey, 26 male were single, 18 male were married, and no male was divorced, while 19 females were single, 12 females were married, and all the 8 females were divorced. So we've further broken down our information of how many were divorced by sex, and we have our bar here, our graph here, our bar chart to show us the same information. We can see that under male, blue represents single, green represents married, and brown represents divorced. So because there is no male who was divorced, there's no brown bar against the male here. But for females, we can see that there's a brown bar showing that there were 8 who were divorced, and these who were married, and so on and so forth. So basically, that's how you can do a cross tabulation. You can compare one variable to 2 or more other variables, as we have done, just simply by doing the same things. Analyze descriptive statistics, you go to cross tabulation, and you choose which one goes to the rows and which one goes to the column. Lastly, another thing I would want to show you is regarding the age. Suppose you collect the data in this manner where you ask people how old they were, but when it comes to analysis, let me go to that table. When you start analyzing and you go to the age table, you see a table like this and you say, this table is a bit difficult to draw a conclusion, because now what you want is not specific ages of the respondents, but you want to group them into age groups. How do I do it? Do I have to start grouping manually? Maybe I select a 10-year gap to say I want all those who are between 20 years and 30 years in one group, 31 to 40 in another group, and 40 plus in another group. Do I have to start tabulating manually? No. You can still change this. You can still change this information into groups of your liking. How we can do that is, we have our ages here. What you do for that is you go to transform, and when you go to transform, you're going to, because this was coded, you're going to have to record this using different variables, and those different variables are the age groups that we're going to set for ourselves. So when you go to record into different variables, you click it, this is going to come. Which variable do you want to record into a different variable? We want to record age. So you get our age and you put it there. Then it will ask you what's the name of, what new name do you want to give? If you want, you can say age group. Keep in mind that when naming, you're not allowed to press space, so it just has to be a continuous name. So I'll use an underscore to say age group. I want to rename age into age group because I'm not categorizing them into groups. And the label can maintain to say age group. It's up to the label which you want to put for yourself. Then when you finish, you say change. Now question 2 has been changed to age group. Then afterwards, now you put the commands that you want the age groups to fall under. So you click here on odd and new values, and then now you set the new values for yourself. So I said I want everyone between 30 and 40 years to be in one group. So you go here on range, then you say 20 years, if you want, you can write it 20 years up to 30 years to be in one group. What value will I assign to that group? We assign value 1. We say add. So for everyone who's between 20 and 30, we assign the value 1 to them. Then you can say 31 to maybe 40. This value will give them 2. We add. And you can say maybe 140 and above. So if 140 and above, we click here on range through highest. So here all we say is 41. So to be 41 through highest, and the value we can give it 3, and we say add. So what we've done is 1 will give us 20 to 30, 2 will give us 31 to 40 years, and 3 will give us 41 years and above. When we finish, we say continue, and then we say OK. It will take us to our output window, and it's going to bring for us to say the recording has been executed, like that. So if we go back to our data, if you look at age, nothing has changed, right? But if you go to the end here, if you go to the end of our questions, you see that a new age group has been formed, which is age group, which now shows numbers 1 to 3 as we had coded them. So what you do is you go to variable view, here it is, age group, and then you change like we did earlier on, the decimals, it's called not decimals, we put it at 0, and then now the values, the same value we had assigned when recording, we just have to remind it in our variable view to say we want the same values to apply. So we click here and we apply it the same way to say 1 should mean 20 years maybe to 30 years. You can write it in full or you can write it in short, it's up to you. You say add 2 to mean 31 years to 40 years. You say add, and 3 to mean 41 years and above. You say, oh, sorry. You say add, then you say OK. And now it has been done. When you go back to data view and we go to the end, we will see that it has automatically changed now to show us our age groups. And now if we want to analyze, we can go to analyze, we can get the frequencies. Let's take this back. We go all the way down, we'll find our age group, we say OK. And now you can see our age groups have been recorded. Now we can see that there were 33 respondents who were between the age of 20 and 30, there were 37 who were between 31 and 40, and there were only 13 who are above 41 years old. So we have transformed the data which we had here of specific ages into age groups simply just by writing the command or entering the command which we want to actually get. So basically, this is how you do your data analysis. This is how you get frequencies for any question from the first question to the end. Even for our last question, the matrix question, you can do it the same way of analyzing. All you have to do is go to the last questions here and you put, where are those questions? They're here. And you put whichever question you want into your variable window and you press OK, and it will give you the table. So women prevented from senior positions, those who say strongly agree with 7, those who are neutral with 30, those who disagreed with 32, those who strongly disagreed with 14, and so on and so forth. It will give you all the information that you need just by a few clicks of the button. So basically, this is how you perform your data analysis. Let me make mention that this software is vast and you can analyze many types of data, not just descriptive. If you go and analyze here, you can see that you can actually do correlation, you can do regression, you can do almost any mathematical operation or analysis using this software. You can do multiple regression, you can do factor loadings. There are so many things you can do with this software. But for the purpose of this course, we'll just end here on frequencies and cross tabulation and recording. Please, I would advise each and every one of you to play around with this software and try to learn and try other things and see how best it can apply to whatever thing you're trying to analyze for yourself. The more you practice, the more it's going to stick into your memory and the more you're going to get better at using this software. We end here for today. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.